Greetings, programs. Welcome to Rationality from AI to Zombies, Episode 13, Belief in Belief. Carl Sagan once told a parable of somebody who comes to us and claims, "There is a dragon in my garage." Fascinating. We reply that we wish to see this dragon. Let us set out at once for the garage. But wait, the claimant says to us, it is an invisible dragon. Now, as Sagan points out, this doesn't make the hypothesis unfalsifiable. Perhaps we go to the claimant's garage, and although we see no dragon, we hear heavy breathing from no visible source. Footprints mysteriously appear on the ground, and instruments that show that something in the garage is consuming oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. But now suppose we say to this claimant, "Okay, we'll visit the garage and we'll see if we can hear heavy breathing." And the claimant quickly says, "No, it's an inaudible dragon." We propose to measure carbon dioxide in the air, and the claimant says that the dragon does not breathe. We propose to toss a bag of flour into the air and see if it outlines an invisible dragon, and the claimant immediately says the dragon is permeable to flour. Carl Sagan used this parable to illustrate the classic moral that poor hypotheses need to do fast footwork to avoid falsification. But I tell this parable to make a different point. The claimant must have an accurate model of the situation somewhere in their mind, because they can anticipate in advance exactly which experimental results they'll need to excuse. Some philosophers have been much confused by such scenarios, asking, does the claimant really believe there's a dragon present or not? As if the human brain only had enough disk space to represent one belief at a time. Real minds are more tangled than that. There are different types of belief. Not all beliefs are direct anticipations. The claimant clearly does not anticipate seeing anything unusual upon opening the garage door. Otherwise, they wouldn't make advance excuses. It may also be that the claimant's pool of propositional beliefs contains "there is a dragon in my garage." It may seem to a rationalist that these two beliefs should collide and conflict, even though they are of different types. Yet it is a physical fact that you can write "the sky is green" next to a picture of a blue sky without the paper bursting into flames. The rationalist virtue of empiricism is supposed to prevent us from making this class of mistake. We're supposed to constantly ask our beliefs which experiences they predict and make them pay rent in anticipation. But the dragon claimant's problem runs deeper and cannot be cured with such simple advice. It's not exactly difficult to connect belief in a dragon to anticipated experience of the garage. If you believe there's a dragon in your garage, then you can expect to open up the door and see a dragon. If you don't see a dragon, then that means there's no dragon in your garage. This is pretty straightforward. You can even try it with your own garage. No, this invisibility business is a symptom of something much worse. Depending on how your childhood went, you may remember a time period when you first began to doubt Santa Claus' existence. But you still believed that you were supposed to believe in Santa Claus. So you tried to deny the doubts. As Daniel Dennett observes, where it is difficult to believe a thing, it is often much easier to believe that you ought to believe it. What does it mean to believe that the ultimate cosmic sky is both perfectly blue and perfectly green? The statement is confusing. It's not even clear what it should mean to believe it. What exactly would be believed if you believed? You can much more easily believe that it is proper, that it is good and virtuous and beneficial, to believe that the ultimate cosmic sky is both perfectly blue and perfectly green. Dennett calls this belief in belief. And here things become complicated, as human minds are wont to do. I think even Dennett oversimplifies how this psychology works in practice. For one thing, if you believe in belief, you cannot admit to yourself that you only believe in belief, because it is virtuous to believe, not to believe in belief. And so, if you only believe in belief, instead of believing, you are not virtuous. Nobody will admit to themselves, "I don't believe the ultimate cosmic sky is blue and green, but I believe I ought to believe it." Not unless they are unusually capable of acknowledging their own lack of virtue. People don't believe in belief. People don't believe in belief in belief. They just believe in belief. Those who find this confusing may find it helpful to study mathematical logic, which trains one to make very sharp distinctions between the proposition P, a proof of P, and a proof that P is provable. There are similarly sharp distinctions between P, wanting P, believing P, wanting to believe P, and believing that you believe. There's different kinds of belief in belief. You may believe in belief explicitly. You may recite in your deliberate stream of consciousness the verbal sentence, "It is virtuous to believe that the ultimate cosmic sky is perfectly blue and perfectly green," while also believing that you believe this, unless you are unusually capable of acknowledging your own lack of virtue. But there are also less explicit forms of belief in belief. Maybe the dragon claimant fears the public ridicule that they imagine will result if they publicly confess that they are wrong, though in fact a rationalist would congratulate them, and others are more likely to ridicule the claimant if they go on claiming there's a dragon in the garage. Maybe the dragon claimant flinches away from the prospect of admitting to themselves that there is no dragon, because it conflicts with their self-image as the glorious discoverer of the dragon, who saw in their garage what all others had failed to see. If all our thoughts were deliberate verbal sentences like the philosophers manipulate, the human mind would be a great deal easier for humans to understand. Fleeting mental images, unspoken flinches, desires acted upon without acknowledgement, these account for as much of ourselves as words do. While I disagree with Dennett on some details and complications, I still think that Dennett's notion of belief in belief is the key insight necessary to understand the dragon claimant. But we need a wider concept of belief, not limited to verbal sentences. Belief should include unspoken anticipation controllers. Belief in belief should include unspoken cognitive behavior guiders. It is not psychologically realistic to say the dragon claimant does not believe there's a dragon in their garage. They believe it is beneficial to believe there is a dragon in their garage. But it is realistic to say that the dragon claimant anticipates as if there is no dragon in their garage, and makes excuses as if they believed in the belief. You can possess an ordinary mental picture of your garage, with no dragons in it, which correctly predicts your experiences on opening the door, and never once think the verbal phrase, "There is no dragon in my garage." I bet it's even happened to you, that when you open your garage door or bedroom door or whatever, and expect to see no dragons, no such verbal phrase runs through your mind. And to flinch away from giving up your belief in the dragon, or flinch away from giving up your self-image as a person who believes in the dragon, it is not necessary to explicitly think, "I want to believe there's a dragon in my garage." It is only necessary to flinch away from the prospect of admitting that you don't believe. To correctly anticipate in advance which experimental results shall need to be excused, the dragon claimant must a. possess an accurate anticipation controlling model somewhere in their mind, and b. act cognitively to protect either b1, their free-floating propositional belief in the dragon, or b2, their self-image of believing in the dragon. If someone believes in their belief in the dragon, and also believes in the dragon itself, the problem is much less severe. They will be willing to stick their neck out on experimental predictions, and perhaps even agree to give up the belief if the experimental prediction is wrong, although belief in belief can still interfere with this, if the belief itself is not absolutely confident. When someone makes up excuses in advance, it would seem to require that belief and belief in belief have become unsynchronized. Here ends chapter 13. So, lots of confusing beliefs and beliefs and beliefs, and even a belief in a belief in a belief, but yeah. Now, if you ever spent any time arguing with religious folks online, or even say, something related like climate deniers or flat earthers or whatever, you'll have seen this kind of thing. Because someone who truly had the belief that they claim to have would be happy to put it to the test. Somebody who, for example, truly believed that there was a God, as described in the Bible, would be happy to put that God to the test. They would, for example, turn to the chapter in the Bible where it says, if you have a faith even as much as that of a mustard seed, you will be able to command a mountain to throw itself into the sea, and it will throw itself into the sea. And they would say, yep, I know God's real, let's put it to the test. We'll make a prayer, and I'm completely confident that God will answer the prayer, because God never fails. This is incredibly rare. You almost never will see this, in an online interaction or in person. Because on some level, the person almost invariably knows that if they ever put it to the test, nothing will happen. And they know that on some level, which is why, nearly always, they will resist putting their beliefs to the test. You will see them squirm, you will see them fight, you will see them throw insults, you will see them do anything to avoid simply putting their beliefs to the test. They will quote some other passage of the Bible that says, don't put God to the test, despite the earlier passage that says, go ahead, test God, I'm not afraid, signed God. And it's similarly telling when you ask a person, whether they be religious or a flat earther or what have you, what would prove you wrong, they will almost never give you something that can actually be presented. If they're fighting evolution, they'll say, I want to see a dog give birth to a cat, which would disprove evolution quite nicely. If you're dealing with a flat earther, they'll demand to be taken up into space on the space shuttle, or similar object, and see it for themselves, knowing that this would cost millions upon millions of dollars, and only the richest people in the world would be able to afford it. All that to persuade them. Because, all the photos and live video that we've got, that doesn't count. And this is one of the passages that came up in Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality that Harry used to persuade Draco, so this is one from the book as well. And this can be of use to us in our everyday lives, not only to anticipate what other people are going to do, but to see if we have fallen into the trap ourselves. If we ourselves find ourselves anticipating what excuse we're going to have to make for this thing to be true, and we now need to excuse it, or if we find ourselves flinching away from testing it and not saying, sure, let's put it to the test, I'm confident that I'm right, then we can know that perhaps, on some level, we know we're believing in belief, rather than in believing what we just said. And that can be useful. Tune in next time for episode 14, Bayesian Judo, which I suspect will have a lot of maths in it. Bye for now.